I'm Becky Cramblit. Welcome to this edition of Local Eats. We're here at the MJ Kellner Kitchen, and today we're going to learn about canning and preserving. It's going to be a fun program. With us is Randy Williams. He is an instructor in the culinary department at Lincoln Land Community College, and we also have the help of Jolene and Denise today. They'll be helping us in the kitchen. So, Randy, let's get started. What are we going to learn today?
Well, we're going to learn how to preserve our local food. It's great to be able to grow your own food in your own garden, or go to the farmer's market, pick up some fresh vegetables that you know where they came from,
right,
and then have that ability to make some fresh salsa. Today we'll be making home canned salsa.
Okay, and we're using tomatoes, obviously.
Obviously. The first thing we have to start with are really high quality tomatoes. You never want to use a tomato that's sort of been bruised, or it's sort of the end of the harvest tomato, if you will. Right. Maybe that's been frosted or the vines have died. You want to use a fresh quality tomato, so you have a fresh quality product that you've canned.
All right, so this process, the recipe, the whole canning process, is this a good one for a beginner?
This is a great recipe for a beginner. We'll go over a lot of our ingredients that we have, and we'll go over a lot of our equipment. You don't have to be intimidated by all these things I've had out here today. Some of it can be, but we'll use it all in the processing method.
Okay, well, let's get started.
Very well indeed. Some of the things that you'll need to can at home, one of my favorite things is a jar lifter, okay? And what's so neat about this, you can grab any jar without burning yourself.
Staying far away from the jar.
Staying far away. It has a nice rubberized cling on that. It's not going anywhere. So you have to have one of these. You can get all this type of equipment at your local hardware store. I got a lot of this at Ace Hardware here in Springfield. Of course, you need a funnel. The funnel is very important. You can take your jar, and now you're ready to fill whatever you have without getting anything on the outside of the jar.
Is there a reason why it's plastic, made of plastic?
I like the plastic. You can also use an aluminum one. They make stainless steel ones. I like the lightweight. It's easy to clean. And it's also, you can see how it's tapered, so it'll fit in a wide mouth or a small mouth jar.
Right, makes sense. Okay.
Very good. We'll just leave that there for a second.
All right.
I don't know where this was 20 years ago. My mom had to have one of these after canning for years and years. But this is a jar lifter. It has a magnet end on it. All you do is pick up your jar, pick up your lid, put that on the jar.
Clever.
Isn't that neat?
Yes, that's
we
very
love
good.
that. Okay, and of course then you have to have, as we do jams and jellies, you have to have a skimmer to take off the froth of the top of the jam. Have to have a ladle to ladle the product in. And of course here we have our jars, different size, from a pint jar to a little 4-ounce jar. These make great gifts. You put your own jelly in there. I like pepper jelly, strawberry rhubarb jam, twin berry jam. Just really neat to give away as gifts.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons a lot of people don't can. They're afraid of what's going to happen if they don't process something correctly.
Right.
And I can tell you today we're doing a high acid food. So anything that's 4.6 pH or lower would be considered a high acid food. And if it's not high acid, you can't use what we call here a boiling water bath. Okay? That's the processing method we're going to use today, because it's a high acid food, because anything that we are trying to kill bacteria-wise, mold, spores, those kind of microorganisms will be killed at 212 degrees. Anything that's high acid, okay, it's killed at 212 degrees. It's probably the deadliest toxin known to man, known as Clostridium botulinum. It's known as botulism. So some people use it as Botox, if you will.
Something you want to avoid.
Exactly. If something was a low acid food, we'd have to go back to the old favorite back here, to the pressure canner. And cook under pressure to get that heat up with the steam to 240 degrees, which kills that microorganism.
And what type of foods would be suitable for the pressure cooker?
Carrots, green beans, anything that's low acid.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Well, let's get back to our salsa here. We'll have a lot of fun here. Maybe you can help me process some of the salsa here. What we're going to do, first thing you have to deal with the tomatoes. And you see we have some quality heirloom tomatoes grown locally.
Beautiful.
You can get them at, start them as seedlings, watch them grow, transplant them into your garden. They're great all year, all summer long.
Probably also find them at a farmer's market.
You sure can get them at the farmer's market locally here. I take a regular tomato, and what I like to do is just score the bottom of that tomato. Make a nice X on that. And we're going to blanch this for about 30 to 60 seconds, okay? You just put it right in our water.
Boiling water, you're dropping it in there.
And we'll count about 60 seconds and let that tomato go ahead and do that.
Are you counting?
I'm counting.
Okay, all right.
Now what will happen, we'll end up when we bring that out here, and we'll be able to peel that tomato super easy. We don't want peels in with our salsa.
Right.
Okay? So what I've done is that's going ahead and cooking. I've got right here 4 cups of fresh diced tomatoes. Okay? We're going to go ahead and put them in our pan and start the cooking process, because this has to cook down for about 20 minutes, okay?
Now, the recipe that you used for this salsa, we will post a website later in the program. You can check that on your screen and go and get the recipe. But it's important that you follow this recipe.
It's very important that you follow it. All the recipes that we're using here today are USDA approved. They've been processed, they've been tried, they're true. They're not going to make you sick. They're safe as long as you follow the processing method.
Okay.
Now what I have here is a high heat spatula. I love these red-handed spatulas. You don't have to worry about them melting in your pan. Another nice little tidbit for the kitchen. This is done about 60 seconds here, okay? You can see it's boiling. I'm not going to stick my hand in there. I have a pair of tongs. We'll bring that out.
Okay.
And you can see right here on the bottom where I scored that, starting to pull away a little bit.
Right.
Okay, that just
That
needs a
tells
little bit
you-
more time. We'll
okay.
give it about another 30 seconds, and we'll have that tomato ready. Okay, while that's doing that, we'll go ahead and start on our onion. Some people get intimidated by the onions and make them cry. We've heard all kinds of wives' tales, put a matchstick in your mouth. I just like a nice breeze blowing by, going the other way
Right.
so I don't cry.
Right.
Okay, but you want to see, look at your onion here, find out where it's growing from, leave that there intact. Okay, just take your onion and take the end off of it, where it grows on the top, okay? We're going to save all this for a compost pile later, okay? I didn't like to take that onion and just cut it in half, okay? Once we have that, you can see we've got these diced ones right here, and everyone goes, well, how do you get those perfectly diced like that? Well, it's real simple. Make sure your fingers are out of the way, put your palm on the onion on the top, and just take your knife and slide it through, okay? So I'm just sliding that through.
Yeah.
Take that top off, it'll come right off. Then all you have to do is just cut right through the onion. See how the end of the onion is holding it in place?
Right.
Okay, now we'll have perfectly diced onions.
Well, and that's important, right? You want
It
them
is.
to be perfect.
You want them to be all uniform in size. If the recipe calls for a small diced onion, pepper, jalapeno, garlic, however that's supposed to be, the processing method was designed to meet that specification for that vegetable.
Okay.
If you had a big, like you had a whole tomato here or a half a tomato in with that salsa, it wouldn't allow that convection through the jar of the salsa to get done all the way and cook out that microorganism.
So once again, the quantity that you use, you need to stick to with the recipe.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Okay.
All right.
So we already have our onions, we have our peppers, we have all that ready to go. We will add this now. As you can see, this is already cooking down. Okay, starting to simmer. Okay, we'll have a 20-minute cooking process. We will now add our minced garlic, our onions, our poblano peppers. I think your favorite was the jalapeno. Is that correct?
Well, I made salsa many years ago, and I didn't know to use gloves with jalapenos, but your skin will burn for days.
Well, if we do
don't.
cut into a hot pepper today, I'll make sure that you wear gloves,
you.
okay? But we have the poblano peppers that we cut up. We have the jalapenos that we cut up. These aren't that hot. This is like the Scoville unit. That's how you measure how hot a pepper is. This is about 2,500 as a jalapeno, and the poblano real mild, about 500.
And
Okay?
you have both of those in the pot?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
A lot of flavors going to come from there. Okay.
All right.
Now we'll bring on our tomato, and what we want to do now, we want to immediately put it into a shock bath. This is an ice water bath
Okay.
that will shock the tomato and stop the cooking process.
That makes sense.
Okay. And you can see already how that tomato has started to pull away. Okay.
Okay.
And it's just real simple. See how that's already pulled away there?
Oh yeah, the
Okay.
skin just peels right off, doesn't it?
Another neat tool that I just love, that's
Yeah.
this gadget right here. It's a tomato core, goes in the tomato, one swipe,
Well, that's clever.
takes it right off.
Yeah.
Okay? So you can see now you've got somewhere to grab for your skin right
The
there.
skin to come off, and
See
it
how
just-
easy?
yep,
It just
just-
comes right off
Peels right off.
and peels right off. So that's the basics of blanching
Okay.
and peeling a tomato, very
Okay.
simply. Okay, so we have all that going on now. Now we need to keep this stirred.
Okay. You just give me a job, whatever you.
I love that. And what we need to do
Ready to
now,
work.
we need to add a little spice to our life. So what I'd like to do,
It's pretty.
we have right here some cumin and some dried onion and other spices in here, some
Okay.
oregano. We can fudge a little bit on the spices.
Okay.
If it calls for 4 cups of tomatoes, if it calls for 2 cups of vinegar, we want all those ratios to be right. But for a personal taste and a personal touch, I put my own spices in just
Okay.
till I like it. Okay?
Okay.
I like the cumin, adds that little bit of zest that I like in there, a little bit of depth. And look at the color here. Isn't that
Yeah,
beautiful?
it's really pretty.
Okay. And we're just going to let this cook down. This is going to cook down again for 20 minutes.
Okay.
Okay? Great.
All right.
Now, right here we have salsa that is not canned yet. We
Okay.
have not went through the processing. Okay? What's happening here is this cooks down. Okay? This will cook down and look to something like this.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's what's in this jar.
That's exactly what's in that jar.
Okay.
This is raw. This was everything cut up without being cooked.
Okay.
So this is cooked. This is cooking down for 20 minutes. This then
Look
is
like
the
that.
20-minute afterwards. And what's going to happen here, we're going to jar this up and start the processing method of making salsa to preserve it. Okay?
Okay.
So it's going to be safe to eat.
All right.
I mean, we just love canning. We love doing this as a family. I remember growing up when the corn harvest was at its peak, you know, a little after the 4th of July. We would have all this corn in our yard, just piles of corn. And
Yep.
everyone in the family, mom, dad, sisters, we would all be shucking corn, and we would start taking the corn and shaving off the corn off the cob, and we would freeze the corn.
Yeah.
Really good way to get the family together. It's a great way to preserve your harvest. We take a lot of pride in what we do.
Right.
I think I told you a story earlier. We were, when I was growing up, we had a flood in our hometown. And my mom was she loved her canned goods. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night, my mom woke me up, that the jars, the quart jars and the pints were clanging together.
From the floodwaters.
From the
in the
floodwaters.
basement.
They weren't worried about the furnace, they weren't worried about any of the tools, anything in the basement. It was just all their canned goods were going to be ruined, they were going to break. So it's a lot of work, you can take a lot of pride in this, and that's one of the reasons I like to preserve. I mean, I know where my product came from. I grew it in my own garden, or I
Right.
went to the farmer's market. I also like that pride. I can give somebody a gift and go, here's something that I made for you.
Right.
Okay?
So you developed your love of this from childhood.
Exactly, exactly. Brings back some really good memories.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, the other reason some people like to preserve, they think that it's more nutritious. You know exactly where the food's coming from. You're handling the food from start to finish. And it's a good way if you're on a low sodium diet. Part of this processing method that we're using, the hot water bath or the pressure cooking, doesn't require salt as part of the preserving method.
Okay.
So you can have low salt, low sodium food.
Okay. That's important.
Well, this is cooked down just about enough. We are going to start to process that. Okay? And this is where we get to have a little fun. Earlier, these jars I sterilized. Okay?
By boiling them in water.
Exactly.
Right,
First
okay.
I washed them,
Okay.
then I took them over into the boiling water, and I let them sit in there for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Brought them out with my jar lifter and sat them right here. So these are sterilized, ready to go.
Okay.
So as far as production goes, we're ready to start the processing methods. Okay. First, we'll start out with a nice pint jar, and I like getting about 4 at one time. This would be a good time for you to lend us a hand.
You're gonna
I'm
put me to work now,
Yeah,
okay.
we'll put the jars, the funnel in here,
Okay.
and all we have to do, I'll do the first one.
All right.
We'll just dip in.
How do you know how full to fill the jars?
And that's a good question. We're going to add and leave about a ½ inch of head space, okay?
Okay.
Head space, I like to check out. You can use a ruler, but they have these fancy head space
Well, this is
calculators
much
now.
more fun.
Yeah, and each notch, this is a 1/4 inch, this is a ½ inch. So we're going to go
Okay.
all the way down to about a ½ inch, okay?
Okay.
That'll allow this to expand a little bit if necessary during the processing time, okay? This will process for 20 minutes in that boiling water bath.
Okay. Cooks for 20 minutes, processes for 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Magic number.
Look at this rich salsa right here.
It looks wonderful.
Goes in.
Actually,
What I like to do-
tasted it earlier. It is wonderful.
Thank you. What I like to do is give that ladle just a little
Okay.
downward.
Okay.
There you go. That way you don't spill on
drip.
the counter.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay. Probably going to take about 3 of these per
All
jar.
right.
That's filled.
Oh yeah, you're there.
Now are we there?
Yep.
Now I just take this funnel. I'll go to the next one. Okay.
Okay.
Now let's just check our headspace out here. Okay. Am I pretty close to a ½ inch?
Yep. I think when it settles, you'll be there. don't
Very
you?
good. Now what I like to do now, you can do what you just did there, sort of move the
Oh,
jar around
okay.
to level it out. What I
Yeah.
do, I take an end of my magnet
Mm-hmm.
jar lifter, and I go through here now getting out all the air bubbles.
What,
Want to
what will
minimize
air
the
bubbles do if you don't
Well,
get them out?
The whole point here is to make this a vacuum sealed jar,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And if I've got some air bubbles in there, that just might give me a chance of some form of bacteria to grow.
Okay.
So I just want to double check, make sure I've got all the air bubbles. You can see how dense that is though. I have very few bubbles in there.
Right, okay.
And again, we'll check our headspace one more time.
All right.
We are right at a ½ inch. That is perfect.
I think you know what you're doing.
Well, I got lucky that time. And then what you have to do, I always keep some paper towels folded, ready to go, because
Okay.
it's very important that you make sure the rim of that jar is completely clean, because we want to get a good seal
Okay.
when we put the lid
Right
on.
across
So I
the
go
top of
ahead
the
and
rim.
wipe the top off,
Okay.
okay? And we'll set that one there. Now it's your turn.
Okay. I can do this. Shake it off. Is that good?
Oh, doesn't that look so good and red?
Yeah,
I'm ready for
it
some
does.
tortilla chips.
That's all we need. I don't see any tortilla chips out here.
We'll have to make some.
But you have some beautiful fresh produce, that's for
We
sure.
do. The berries are really looking good too.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
based on the heat content here, the jalapenos that we've added in here, we actually took the seeds out so they wouldn't be as hot. There's a lot of heat in the seed of a jalapeno, so you just might make a note of that. Hey, you are real close. Okay, you can just set that right there.
Okay.
What I like to do, I'd say you're a little off, but let's see.
Yeah, I'd say
Check
it
your
might be a
headspace
little
there.
bit. Oh, yeah.
Okay, what you can do is now spoon in a little bit.
Okay.
Right in the middle.
Just from
Try
here?
not to get any on the rim. Yes.
Okay, right. Because we want the rim to be very clean.
That is perfect, Becky. You,
What can I say?
look at that.
You
Okay.
think it's enough?
I think it's perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Here's a paper towel.
All
Take
right.
the rim off.
Okay, rim's clean.
Very good. Now we just have to do 2 more real quick because we're going to put that in our hot water bath.
Okay.
So I'll grab a jar. You've got one.
All right.
I'll fill mine up real quick. We'll set this up here. And again, just filling up till you have a 1/2 inch headspace on the top.
Okay.
We still have to go through yours and make sure that the air is out of it. I think we're going to get one more. That's going to be about it.
Yeah, that's all. You're almost out of salsa.
Exactly. Very good.
Now, once we put these into the pan to boil, and that's it, right?
That's it for about 20 minutes, okay?
Okay.
And we'll wipe this off here. Very good. Make sure that we don't have any air bubbles. And this one's yours, right?
Uh-huh.
We're going to keep track of that one. We'll send you home with this one.
Cool.
Okay? That gives us 3 jars. Now,
Okay.
we have, back here, we've had in water, our lids.
Well, you get to use your fun little magnetic tool.
You get to, and I will let you do this. All we have to do is go in here, and I have warm water in here. I
Okay.
don't leave this a rolling boil like I do the other areas.
Okay.
I just like to keep this warm because what we're doing, we're activating that band right there of sealant. Okay, that's
Okay.
going to create the seal, which will make the vacuum in the jar. Okay,
Okay.
so I'll let you grab one out of there.
All right.
You can do all 3 of those.
I just set it on there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Some of the old timers call
like
these
this?
instead of lids, they
Can I
call
touch
them.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just use your finger, huh? They
Okay.
call them flats.
Flat.
They call them flats. Okay.
Now, how do you turn them over?
That's a big one. That's,
Right. I'm just trying to
Just
get rid of it.
that's okay.
Come
There you
here.
go.
There's a little one. Okay.
Perfect. And that might have 2.
Oh, right. So there's some things you run into, right?
Yeah, there you go.
And these? You just put that one on there?
Mhm, perfect.
Yeah? Okay.
Now we have our rings. And we have our rings to go on. Now, this one you don't want to get very tight.
Okay.
We just want it sort of hand tight, if you will. Okay.
All right.
Screw that
So
on.
not just
and
as
see-
tight as you can get it.
Yeah,
but-
see, I still have a little give in there.
Oh, you have, okay. Yeah, I got mine
just-
too tight. Okay.
There you go. And you do that
All
last
right.
one.
Now these rings, once you store it, they don't have to stay on, right? You can take these
No,
rings.
exactly. You can see
Okay.
the jars that we have over here in the display. I've taken the bands off,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Now I will reuse my jars and my rings over and over again. As long as they don't have any chips, they don't have any cracks, there's no rust on the ring, I will
Okay.
use these over and over and over again. So your initial investment when you buy these might be a little higher, but you're able to reuse
Reuse them.
these, okay? Now what you don't want to reuse, and that's your lids.
Okay.
Never reuse your lids. Those you
Right.
can recycle, but do not reuse them on your processing methods, okay? Now,
Okay.
we get to have some fun with the jar lifter.
Okay.
Okay? If you bring one of those jars right over here, we have a boiling water bath here, okay?
Okay.
You want to make sure it's at a rolling boil. Go ahead and put your jars in
drop it
for
in there?
processing.
Anywhere?
Mhm.
Okay.
Exactly. We'll bring the other 2 over.
Okay. This is actually fairly simple. Make sure you got a good grab on the jar when you, have you ever dropped one?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Very good. Now, as you can see, we put those cooler jars in there.
Uh-huh.
And now, because I have a basin here, I never want to put jars in the bottom of the canner itself.
Okay.
You will crack your jars for sure because you're on direct heat. Okay, so I have a nice basket, I'll lift up here,
Okay.
that I use. Okay, and that's going to be submerged into the water. It's very important that your jars submerge at least an inch below the water.
So the
Okay.
water's covering the jars, and even though we didn't put those rings on tight, that it doesn't get into,
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly. The
Because
air
of
is
the-
being pulled out. As you see right now, the air is coming out of the jar.
Got it.
Okay?
Okay.
And what we're going
Oh,
to
yeah,
do is
very
put the lid back on because we need this to come back up to a rolling boil.
Okay.
The point that it starts to boil, we will then start our 20-minute processing time.
Okay, and coming up, we're going to show people how to make some jam. So
We will.
we'll just move right into that real
Exactly.
quickly as well.
Now, as we process this will sit here for 20 minutes. We'll make sure that it's starting to boil. You see, it doesn't take too long. It's starting to just start to simmer just a little bit.
Right.
Okay. As that comes up to the boil, we will mark it 20 minutes from there.
Okay.
After 20 minutes, we will turn our heat off, as I have done here, and we will take the jars that I've lifted up here, and we will let them rest in the water after I've turned the heat
Okay.
off for
Still
5
sitting in
minutes.
the warm water, okay.
That's part of the processing time.
Okay.
So just don't think you can go in for 20 minutes, process, pull that hot jar out, and you're done.
Okay.
Follow the proper processing method as seen and set forth by the USDA.
And then you have your salsa, right?
We will.
We're done?
And I think we'll be able to crack into some here in just a few minutes. We'll bring
Okay.
this salsa on up here.
All right.
We'll take a look at it, see how we've done. Earlier today, I went ahead and went through 20 minutes of processing time,
Okay.
5 minutes of wait time, and here is our finished product.
There you go.
Isn't that beautiful?
It is beautiful.
But as you can see, as the cooked jar and processed with the uncooked, okay?
Right.
You can see this has never been in the heat. This has not been processed, so it's a little brighter.
Right.
But here's the problem. See that give in the top of that jar? That is not sealed, okay?
So it's only going to last for so long.
Exactly. We get real excited when we hear a pop because we know that that has been sealed. And look how that is dimpled down,
Yep.
and there is no give in that lid whatsoever.
And what is the shelf life on this product?
You know, that's a good question. We get that question a lot, and we'll hear old timers go, well, I have stuff on my shelf from 1979. I would not recommend eating that. However, I like to say preserving is to get you through the next growing season. So, you know, we get all excited this time of the year for asparagus and rhubarb. Matter of fact, some of this rhubarb came out of my garden to be able to use it. However, canning it and preserving it is to get you through the next season. So I say about a year.
Okay.
I really don't overdo my salsa. I don't overdo jam. Sometimes we overdo some tomatoes, okay? But we try to just get through the next growing season. If something's 20 years old, 10 years old, it would be my advice to throw it away.
Okay.
Okay. What has happened over the years, our tomatoes have hibernized to where they have a low acid in them now. And maybe years ago, Grandma would say, well, I've been doing this way for 20 years and I haven't made anyone sick, and that's fine. But their ways and our ways are two different things now. With all the microorganisms we have, the foodborne illnesses, I'd rather err on the side of safety.
Okay.
Okay? Very well indeed. We can take a look at this if you'd like. You want to take a little taste?
Sure.
There's yours. There's mine. We still need the chips.
Yeah, I don't see any chips here. It's not as hot as what was
So
cooked.
you can see as you process it down, all that flavor, all that heat.
Starts to intensify, doesn't
Exactly. We've built layers of flavor in there, and then it really intensifies as we put it in the jar
It's a great
and condense
recipe.
it. Thank you very much
can-
indeed.
it? Check the website on your screen for that recipe. Randy, we have a few minutes left in the program. Tell me about this mixed berry jam.
That's great. It's so easy to make. It's just 4 cups of berries, 4 cups of sugar. Add that together, cook that down for 25 minutes till it turns into this nice slurry that we have here.
Okay.
All the mixed berries are in there. Now, I don't know if this is completely set. We let the strawberries macerate a little bit in some lemon juice so that acid would pull out the natural pectin.
Yeah.
What I do, I get a glass plate, I keep it on ice,
All
and I put a
chilled, right?
little bit of that jelly on there.
Okay.
And I want it to get cool real quick. Now, what I don't want to see is that to run completely off the plate. As you can see, it started to gel.
Okay? So
That
this is
means
good.
we
This is
are
what you want.
good to preserve.
All right.
Okay? And real easy now. All we have to do is take our jam. And I have these nice little 4-ounce jelly jars.
Yeah?
Great to give as a gift.
They're really cute.
This is delicious here.
Process is the same as the salsa.
And, well, the headspace is a little different. All we
Right.
have to do is leave about a 1/4 inch this time.
Okay, so get a little bit more room to fill. Okay. But essentially, you get your ingredients, you cook them down, put them in the boiling water, put them in here.
And we only have to process this for only 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay?
10 minutes. Just barely twist that on.
Okay.
That is ready to go in the hot water bath, 10 minutes. Let it rest for 5 minutes. After it's done, bring it out. You have jam for the season.
So again, this is something that a beginner could do really simply,
2 ingredients, fruit, sugar.
right? And again, stick with the recipe.
Exactly.
All the ingredients, very
The
important.
Tried and proven recipes.
Okay, well, Randy, thank you very much. You have been very helpful and obviously knowledgeable about canning. So we appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Becky.
I'm Becky Cramblit. That's all we have time for on this edition of Local Eats. Thanks for watching.